Hi, I'm Kat Alvarado, and this is Creatively Ever After. This is a podcast for people who balance creativity and career, people with passions who also have to have jobs. Whether you are an accountant who plays the bass on Saturdays or someone who bottles their farts in a jar and wants to be a party clown, this podcast is for you. We talk about happiness, authenticity, and everything it takes to balance our passions and our life.
That was great. That was very good.
Was it good? Okay.
I mean, I had no notes.
Okay, then let's just keep going. No notes. All right. We're here today with an exciting guest. He has been on AGT numerous times. That's America's Got Talent if you're bad at letters. And he travels internationally, performs internationally. He was just on a show in Italy as like a main character. I don't know. Sethward Allison.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't know Sethward, what he does is he dresses up as
I love hearing people explain what I do. It's one of my favorite things.
He dresses up as animals and maybe objects, mostly animals, in like full-size costumes, head to toe. He makes the costumes himself, and then he acts like a maniac on stage as a character, as the animal. It's like nothing I have ever seen before. I saw it in person at a show I did. That's how I met him.
Yes.
I was disturbed. I was delighted. It was fantastic, and I was like, I gotta get this guy on the show because this is his job.
Yeah. I wish I was selling farts in a jar. I will say that up top. That's my actual dream.
Would they be creative? Like you eat different foods and they smell slightly different?
Oh, for sure.
A different bouquet.
I am a fartist. That's what I truly wish. Let's start at the beginning. What did I want to be when I grew up?
Let's get away from the party humor.
That is, I'm sorry that you invited me on your podcast.
How are we at potty humor? And we're not even like 2 minutes out the gate.
I don't know. But, I think that life has a funny way of working out into what we were meant to do.
You were just saying before the podcast that sometimes when things go wrong, when you make mistakes on stage, you roll with it. And that's kind of what makes it awesome.
That is my brand, I think. That's kind of the entirety of that's also one of the pillars of being a clown. It's being able to do that and know that that's what you're doing. So...
This is fascinating. Not a lot of people get to talk to a clown. I think it's a thing where you hire them and you say goodbye.
Yeah. You don't want to get into what they're doing with their life. You want to keep it very on the surface.
I feel like it's very baskets. Like you assume that their life is an absolute train wreck.
That show it's beautiful. What a
fantastic show.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched Baskets, you should definitely watch it. But let's talk about you, Seth. That's why you're here.
I would love to do that.
Oh, who doesn't? So let's start at the beginning. You're currently this wild, crazy clown person. What did you want to be when you grew up?
So originally, and I don't remember when exactly this was, but I wanted to be an entomologist because of the intricacies of insects and how crazy complicated they were, so detail-oriented. And I was just fascinated by collecting bugs and keeping them in a terrarium. I had a bug collection that was had hundreds of different kinds of bugs that were...
Did they eat each other?
Sometimes. I was a bit of a, I don't know, this might be one of the things you look out for in a future serial killer, but I would pin them, I killed them. I murdered the bugs and would pin them on styrofoam, but sometimes the bugs didn't always die and would eat away the styrofoam that they were pinned in and then continue to go around and eat the other bugs. Maybe they were zombie bugs. I don't know. I didn't know a lot about them, but I wanted to grow up and study them.
You're like, one day I will know about bugs.
I'll know the name of this crazy monster creature.
Yo, my sister was watching a show the other day on like Discovery Channel or National Geographic, and there is a bug. It's like a stalk-eyed fly,
Bro,
and it like
they're insane.
it like inhales this air and squeezes it through its eyeballs, and then its eyes like come out of its head, and its eyes are like over here. I don't know what it sees.
They're so crazy. Bugs are crazy.
They're wild.
Insane.
I mean, have you ever like looked at a fly's eyeballs or a spider eyeballs, and they're like.
Every weekend. That's what I do for fun. I stare at bugs. That's the kind of guy I am.
Hot. I mean, that is what women are looking for in a partner. You know what?
Oh, good.
Staring at bugs is better than staring at butts on Instagram.
Hey, that's what's up.
Yeah, this man is loyal.
Girl, you're going to catch me looking at some insectoids, dude. You're going to catch me.
Love it. Okay, so you want to be a bug person when you
I was obsessed with detail. I think that was the thing that I was really into. Small things, detailed things. Loved playing with Lego. Mm-hmm. Loved making, models. Big creator. I loved working my hands. That felt like, that was the only way I could see me as an adult was like some kind of scientist, entomologist guy.
You lost the science part, but I think the detail-oriented element is still there because when I saw you as a worm, because that's what he was when I saw him.
Yes.
You included the detail of like having a thing over your teeth to make your teeth look like gums only.
Yeah, worms don't have teeth. That's and I wanted to be realistic, I also had the clitellum, which is the little spot there, the band, which is a fun word to say.
I really like when a man knows about a clitellum.
This is the best podcast. I think this is the best podcast.
I started out comedy in bars. Okay, I can't help it. This is who I am.
Good.
This is a clean podcast. Kids won't know about that. We're talking about bugs.
It's educational, really. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. So you're into bugs. And then how did you decide you want to be a performer? Like, what was the turning point for you?
I was also obsessed with Jim Carrey, everything Jim Carrey does. There's this like freedom that he had on camera. And I think it was around junior high that I realized like, oh, that's my like vocation. That's what I feel called to do, is make people laugh or at least like show the world that it can be silly. You're allowed to be silly, and that also maybe we all need to be a little more silly.
I agree with that.
So I think that was the turning point that I was like, if I can get paid to do this, then I'm truly living.
Okay, I hope Jim Carrey sees this.
Oh.
So he can see what he inspired.
Oh, he's an icon, that man.
No, he is. What are your top 3 Jim Carrey movies?
Well, it is, it's hard to say this because Ace Ventura is a little the first one, a little problematic, but I think if you take the problematic things, it is still an like iconically perfect, like structured, comedic, silly, absurdist, physical masterpiece. Also like When Nature Calls. Obviously Dumb and Dumber, The Mask. Literally anything Jim Carrey does, I will watch it, and I will find a way to love it. No matter what. I
don't disagree. And I recently rewatched Dumb and Dumber and Dumb and Dumber 2?
The newer one. Yeah. It's hard to say because he was only in the new sequel.
Yes.
Not the other prequels and whatever.
Yes. So I watched the sequel that Jim Carrey is in.
Yes.
And it's like widely panned, terrible reviews. I loved it.
I went and saw it in the theater, left the theater, was like, perfect.
That was exactly what I wanted.
So wonderful.
It was so stupid, and I laughed so hard.
And everyone's like, oh, we want so much more. I was like, That was great.
I feel like everybody these
silly.
days wants something to have like a serious turn. Like, when is he vulnerable? I just want to see him reflect
But
on his
Jim
relationship
Carrey
with
has-
his parents.
It has so much. He has so much. There's so many projects that have that. Like,
Yes.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a tour de force, and
Oh my
he's
God.
like
I
he
think about it all
carries
the
that
time.
thing. It's like amazing.
Yes.
So, and he does that. So the mystique is actually highly underrated. Me, Myself, and Irene has some vulnerability, highly underrated. Like, oh my God, I could go on. The guy is a master. He's a master. Absolutely. Anyway, I love the guy.
You love Jim Carrey, but one movie in particular made you go, actually, I want to do this.
Yeah, well, there's this. It's not a good example because it wasn't also very. It wasn't highly rated, but I think I was watching. It was Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, and it wasn't that I really liked the movie. I think the movie was okay, but there was a moment in the movie where I saw that Carrey was just off doing. It didn't relate really to the character that he was doing. I mean, it did in many ways. It did, but what I saw him shine through the movie and him just having pure joy and pure unadulterated physical silliness deep, like right in the middle of it. And I was like, it doesn't matter like the genre of film. It doesn't matter if the film even sucks. The thing that I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to get on camera and have this complete disregard of a standard of what you're supposed to do and what you have to do, and just spew silliness. Like, that was what I was like, yeah, I gotta do this. This is my ultimate goal.
I love that. That's awesome. I think there's something really special too when like a grown man is extra silly. That's it's
delightful. It's totally.
I had this old friend, David Sharp. Shout out to David Sharp. He had a persona on stage, and he was kind of like very grumbly, very serious stand-up comic. And then one day he had a joke where he was like pretending to be a butterfly, and it was
I've been there.
It was so fun. It was so delightful. And we were on a road trip to a festival together, and I was like, dude, can you do that? Can you just
be the butterfly
joyous?
For me.
Be a butterfly. Be fun. Be delightful. I love it. I don't see enough of that.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's so fun.
I was a butterfly the first time I was on AGT. So we understand. We get it. It's like a total thing.
Exactly. What did you do as the butterfly?
I was a deformed, half-baked, troubled creature. I didn't have the patience to become a full butterfly in my chrysalis, so I sprouted early, and I was a bit of a mess.
I think I saw it. It's good.
Yeah.
Look it up. Am I allowed to take clips from that? And
that's a great question. I've been doing it, but it's also I don't know. NBC likes to have a strong hold on their intellectual property, but
maybe I think you can put like 15 seconds. I'll
Yeah,
try and
do
find
it.
the best 15
Yeah, do
seconds,
it.
and I'll put it somewhere in this podcast.
I dare you.
Okay, so you watch Lemony Snicket. You're like, actually, I'm not just a fan of Jim Carrey. I want to wear his skin.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
You want to follow in
Extreme
his
stan.
footsteps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fully and utterly inspired by the
So
man.
you go to high school and you start making short films and stuff.
Yeah, I started getting into figuring out how to make it yourself, and got into lots of different friends together, joined other groups that were trying to figure out film, and we would make sketches, silly stuff. That led me into college, and I produced a sketch comedy show in college and got even more acquainted with the mechanics of it, majored in television production, and figured out like, okay, this is how to do it in LA, this is how to do it in Hollywood, and the whole make it yourself mentality was strong throughout the whole process.
I think that's huge. And I hope this podcast gets seen also by young people who are figuring out what they want to do, because that's actually a really good point. I think for me when I was young, because I was a performer, I was more actress, singer, all of that. There wasn't that do-it-yourself mentality, which I really regret, because I bet you I'd be a lot further along. Well, also, there's so many creative outlets. There's I think when I was young, I thought the only thing to do was to be the actor, to be in front of the camera. And for some reason, like the behind the camera never occurred to me.
It was almost like you're not allowed to do the behind the camera.
Yeah. And now as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, I would love to be a writer. You know, even directing is really cool. I haven't done a lot of directing, but my friend and I directed this like thing where I was like reciting a poem, but with like a lot of different visuals. I'm like, oh my God, that was so fun and creative and cool. Like
amazing.
There's a million ways. Anyways,
Yeah.
Like I love that. Also, sliding doors moment. So you went to Pepperdine.
Yes.
I almost went to Pepperdine for acting and stuff. So we would have crossed paths.
We would have been in a collective alumnus.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But we did cross paths at the time that needed whenever I was, being a worm, being an idiot worm on the stage that you were also on. So we'll allow it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take that.
It was what was meant to be.
You're meant to be on this podcast.
I love that performance was like a scarring but yet intriguing moment for you where you're like, I need to actually ask more questions about this.
Well, I was like,
Let's get him in a room.
This is a good-looking man. And then
what has made him do this?
Oh God.
Wow, thank you for that. I'm so
Oh, you undid it. No.
Thank you. It is my goal. I like to undo.
Look, you got good underlying structure. I'd redecorate. No, I'm kidding. That's mean. I don't mean it in any way. You're
I'll
great.
allow it. I have taken all these notes.
So, okay. You major in TV. What I want to know, did your family ever go like, oh, come on, can you double major in accounting?
You know what? I get that a lot because I moved from a small Texas town to LA, so it feels like a common thing to come from a very conservative, small Bible Belt city to LA. But I grew up in a very large family. I was one of 6 kids, and I think that my parents were like, one of them will do well. We can spare a few to try to do the artist thing, and I was definitely the one to be the like, well, he's gonna figure it out on his own time.
Like he's got 5 other siblings to pull him out of homelessness if that's what happens.
But also, I mean, good for them as parents because my older brother is a neurosurgeon. Wow. So it was like, and good for me. He already did all of that. I could go the exact opposite way and become a clown. So they had both ends of the spectrum right out of the gate. And then the rest of this 4 kids can do whatever they want and they have no expectations.
What do your other siblings do?
Ooh, man. My youngest sister is about to be a full-fledged dentist. She just got her like white lab coat thing. She's still in school for that. My other brother is an engineer. My other brother was a coach and is now a youth minister. And then my brother right under that is a worship leader, singer, songwriter.
Wow, so they really nailed it. They got
they
essentially got doctor, lawyer, dentist. We got people who are up in the religious.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
And then they got an artist.
And they got a complete wackadoo. Yeah.
Every family is a wackadoo. I have a wackadoo. Shout out to my uncle Peter. Hi.
I love your uncle, and I've never met him.
So my uncle Peter, he also has a little handlebar mustache. He's got this beard, long hair. He makes bikes out of recycled bike parts. He's been on the local news in Davis several times. He's a local celebrity in NorCal and frequently will wear a little red hat and look like a gnome. And
this is my kind of guy. If you were to be like, what's your perfect uncle? Like if you were to like make them out of clay, I'm like, your uncle. Your gnome uncle is my perfect uncle.
Do we know that your dad is your dad and honestly, that your dad is not my uncle?
We gotta do a little more research on this. It makes too much sense.
Are you my cousin? This is crazy.
I hope.
You totally could be, because he has a son, and I don't see him anymore. But if he was just like you, I'd be like, oh, this checks out.
Yeah,
he was really funny when we were kids. Amazing. Anyways, shout out to my cousin Colin. Hey, okay.
Hi, Colin. Hi.
Back to you. That is wild. I love that your parents were so supportive and didn't...
I was very lucky to have. I mean, they definitely didn't want me to go to California. They didn't want me. I remember my dad sitting me down and being like,
You can
beware.
You can be a party clown here. Is
he
that what
was
he said?
trying really hard for me to be a lawyer because he was like this. I remember him trying to convince me that being a lawyer was pretty much like acting. That you have your audience, which is the jury, and you have the director, who's the judge, and like he was making all of these analogies, and I was like, I don't think that's true. I don't think. And then he was like, beware of California. I don't want you to turn gay. And he was being like straight up serious. And I was like, what? I think even at that age, I was like, I don't think that's how it works, but all right, I'll be careful.
He's like, don't drink the water. It's making the frogs gay.
They truly were like terrified of what like LA was going to do to me. And I'm sure they think that it has like, I voted a certain way that I don't think they really wanted me to. But other than that, I think that they're not proud.
What percentage gay did LA make you?
I am.
Like,
the
not
spectrum
100.
has shifted a little. Aren't we all a little gay? That's how you know
100%.
that I've been affected by California. It's spectrum. Sexuality is a construct, and we're all on. Yeah, that's. But yes, there was definitely a moment where they're like worried, and I think it's good for everyone involved to show that like there is a world where you can follow your dreams and put yours and other people's fears aside. And not that I'm the most successful person in the world with what I have done, but I definitely am fulfilled in what I'm doing, which is really the only goal, right?
I mean, there's so many people who are not fulfilled and they're stressed out and they're working in jobs where like they might even be successful and making a ton of money, but wishing they could give a lot of that up to just be happy. I mean, my first guest on the podcast on episode 0, we'll call it. She was my pilot episode, Dana.
Love it.
She was a software engineer doing very well for herself. And she decided to take basically a 50% pay cut to just have more freedom.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
It's what you
great.
do. Did you ever get scared in taking the leap and like not listening to your dad? Like, was there a moment where you're like, oh, shoot, maybe I should be a lawyer? Oh no.
I think money is always the culprit for that kind of fear or hesitation, because we live in this country, this world where capitalism is told that's the most important thing, making the money. And when you have stuff on paper and you're like, well, here's the average of this, I think it can spook you. But as far as the way I truly felt about it, I was afraid of not making the amount of money that I needed to either survive or be comfortable or whatever. But I wasn't afraid of what would happen if I didn't make that. And maybe this is the privilege talking as like a white male, but for me, it was like, I love the concept of performing. I loved the actual performing when I was allowed to do it so much that if, like, the worst case scenario, I'm homeless, but I'm still like performing in some capacity, that was completely valid. I was like, that's fine. That's a fine thing to do. I know I have an insane privilege with a safety net and all that. It wouldn't get to that point, but maybe it's delusion. Maybe it's just like the love of what that art form was so strong that there wasn't these other fears getting involved. And I think I'm lucky. I don't think a lot of people, not a lot of people, I know that there are people out there that don't know exactly what they want to do with their life. They don't know exactly what makes them the most happy. But I knew very early on that it was like, I want this. I need this, and it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. Parents' opinion or any self-doubt, none of that matters compared to how much I love the performing aspect of it.
You know, that reminds me of something I heard a lot when I was young. Because I was thinking about being a vocal major, a voice major, doing opera.
Yes.
What?
It's an amazing thing if you can get to I mean, geez.
I mean, then one day, like, I took an economics class and I actually started thinking about it. And I was like, wait, the market, let's do some mental market research on this. Who listens to opera?
So you crunch the numbers.
1 in 1,000 people, if that. And I was like, oh, the market's just not there. I'm going to die.
Wow. So you shifted from looking at the data then, huh?
Yeah. And now that I work in, data analytics, when I took my first economics class, my brain went, ooh, we're good at this.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm actually a very, very logical person, which honestly, logic and comedy go together because joke structure, but that goes to show you stand-up comedy is a completely different art from clowning because stand-up is very much rooted in the logic of a joke. If something isn't in some way based on truth, it won't work. And if a joke is illogical, it won't work for the most part. And sometimes I'm wrong. But I would say in 80% of cases with writing stand-up, it needs to have a logical pattern. And if a joke isn't working, it's because you messed up on the logic. So that goes back to I am a logical data person. I think that's why I can write jokes. However, there are a lot of jokes and ways to be on stage that do cross over into clowning from stand-up.
Right. Yeah, the blending worlds, you definitely can blend. Mm-hmm. But I would agree with you that joke structure is very that's where a lot of writing comes in, where you are figuring that out. You're doing the math and you're making it make logical sense.
Oh, yeah. When I was taking acting classes and learning how to break down a script, one of the things that jumped out at me is how writers know what makes something funny. There's something called a reversal, for instance. And when an actor is looking at a comedy script, one of the things they have to check for is reversal. So, it's going one direction and then the sentence ends in a different way with what it's saying is not what you expected at the beginning. You go, oh, that is a punchline. And then the actor, once recognizing that, will then deliver that line to basically go da-da-da in this tone, da-da-da that tone.
Sure.
This is a really bastardized way of explaining it.
Love it.
But it's wild that writers who are not performers are mentally this is how you write said joke.
Right,
or they might know it instinctually. It's wild. They're not even performing it. They're just writing it. And then the actor comes and takes that and then brings that punchline to life. It's so cool. I love the whole process. It's actually why I love writing so much.
Right.
I remember the first time I wrote a sketch and then had the actors do it and they were kind of mediocre, but I saw that this sounds so cocky.
No.
I sound so arrogant. But
I think you're allowed.
I saw my writing come to life and that people were laughing at my writing in the sketch and I went, dang, writers are so important.
Yes.
They carry TV shows.
Yeah.
Truly. Unless the actor is someone amazing like Jim Carrey or
but the structure's still there. I think that's what's amazing. It feels like a little bit of a magic trick, right? When you're I wrote that, I made that happen, and then they come to life. It's like you're Dr. Frankenstein making this life form exist, and you were the one who initiated it.
It's cool, but it is one art form of laughter and delight.
Right.
But clowning is so different because it is largely improvised. It's largely living in the moment, and it's the opposite of logical, right?
It's funny how you can call illogical stuff. It's it's its own logic almost. You're kind of setting things up and you're writing it in a different way, but there is still some of the same elements, but it's just the lens is different, it feels like.
In what way?
I think that clowning instead of you looking at the structure of how a joke works, you're looking at how to take the audience on a journey of on a journey, and you can do it through vulnerability. You can do it through a shared happenstance experience that we discovered on stage. But it's usually the whole point of clowning is how can I connect with them? And how can I do it as fast as possible so that we can have as much time to play? And that's it's just a different way of looking at it. You're trying to connect with an audience as a stand-up as well, but you're trying to connect with them through making them laugh by surprising or the joke structures. And there's a lot of surprise in clown. There's a lot of the same types of elements, but I think the initiation of it is, hey, I just want to get on the same page as you. Like, how do we do that? Is it a pratfall or up top? Is it me being sad? Like, and showing you like, and you're connecting with me through empathy. Like, what is it that gets you to connect immediately? Is it desperation? Like, sometimes you can connect through desperation, like, which there's like, it kind of opens up this whole world of possibilities that you can investigate.
So when you connect, you're doing something where people recognize themselves in you in some way, shape, or form.
You're kind of putting humanity on stage, and you're saying like, this is you, right? And they're like, yes, or no, and you fail miserably. And that's actually the best part of clown, is that when you fail miserably, it's a total win if you acknowledge it.
Yeah, that's where it becomes alt comedy.
It's alt comedy in a sense of like, if you're doing this in like, if I do a worm at a mostly straight stand-up set, then it's like, what are you doing? If I do the worm at a clown show, people are like, yep, he does the clown stuff. Or he does the worm stuff in the clown show. But yeah, it's like alt comedy, but it's also like standard archaic types of performance. It's like,
I mean,
connecting.
Clowning, I feel, it's one of the forms of humor that's been around forever. I mean, we've got court jesters, right? From like 600 years ago, 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it because of that. I love that we all have a body and we're all different, which makes us weird. Right?
God,
all bodies are
weird.
What
I wouldn't give to watch a court jester from like the year 1200 when everybody was dying of plague.
Yeah.
Like, what were those jokes like?
Oh, man. He probably was solid. So much despair happening. So dark. Like, a Dark Ages jester has gotta be. Like, he would do so well right now.
Oh, my God. I think, really? He'd be like, hey, remember that time in your village where everyone died?
Remember whenever the country was split down the middle and murder and desperation were prevalent in all things? And we're like, yes, make us laugh. Dude, we need you.
Did you know the original Hansel and Gretel? We're getting way off the beaten path here. But the story of Hansel and Gretel is actually based on a true thing that happened.
Is it? It's ruthless. It's ruthless. What a
There
crazy...
was a real, like, both, it was like drought and storms and famine for like a decade in Europe. And so everybody was so starving that sometimes they would have kids and raise them to eat them.
Oh, my gosh.
So somebody actually like had these kids and was so desperate
Poor
they sold them
Hansel.
to an old lady who was going to eat the kids. And that's where the story of Hansel and Gretel comes from.
Man.
And a court jester heard about it.
Let's tell this story.
And was like, what if they used candy to get away? Ooh, that's a fun
The
story.
house is made of candy. All right, I'm in. It's enough. Cute.
When you're starving, even a house tastes like candy.
Hey,
that's dark.
That's
I love it.
where it goes.
Let's come back to what the podcast is about, which is authenticity and happiness. And I love that you followed something that connected you to your joy, and like you've gone on this journey. I love the commitment to joy and happiness is kind of like a life mission.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And yeah, I think there is a little bit of privilege in being able to do that and have that safety net.
Right, of course.
But it's still great that you did it. Because honestly, a safety net isn't always guaranteed. Like, what if your family was a bunch of jerks?
Right,
and we're
right,
like,
right.
yeah, we're not going to help you. It was
Exactly.
your choice. Which there's people who are like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, back to authenticity. I guess my next thought that I'm curious about is like, I feel like initially I was like, oh, he probably struggles with dating because he's a clown. But on the other side of it, the upside is you're so authentic that I feel like you must only draw people towards you who are like, hell yeah, I'm in. Like there is no gray area with you. Either somebody's like, this, I want it, or no.
Yeah, not for me, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's the filter happens before I talk most of the time of who is willing to date me, and so I guess it makes it a little easier. Maybe you're not having to go on dates where you're like, this could work. This, oh no. And then they see you perform and you're like, they ghost you every time. It's like, well, that never happens because they already know before we go on a date that what it is they're getting into.
I bet. And I feel like so often dating culture, especially in LA, and I'm trying to get away from talking about dating, but
Yeah, it's part of it.
This is my brand almost, but it's not a dating podcast. It's career.
Yes.
But yeah, let's pause and talk about that. Because it is so interesting. I feel like there's so much in today's dating culture that's like, well, you need to pretend to be in your masculine or be in your feminine. Oh, you have to be a soft femme, because that's, as a woman, that's what I'm hearing on the internet. Like, oh, you need to be this like, let the man be the man. And like, what even is that? And what does it mean if you're not being authentic to yourself?
I think it means you're going to get in trouble. I think that it means you're going to attract and you're going to connect and you're going to start a journey with somebody that thinks you're somebody that you're not. And when does that, you might even get married. Mm-hmm. And then you realize that it started with you putting a mask on. You started with you pretending to be somebody you're not. Like, I can't imagine that that's ever worked out unless there's somebody who you're, connecting with who's very emotionally mature and can be like, oh, I can see that that's what you feel like you need to be for this to work, and you work that out. But from what I hear, men in LA and the dating scene are not emotionally mature. So I mean, for the most part, I wouldn't bank on they're able to see through an idea. But again,
I don't think anyone is. Clown. I don't want to put that on just men.
Right.
I think
it's
women
not
are
just
perfectly
men at all. I
capable
think
of being
everyone
immature.
is having a perception of what they're supposed to be in order to find true love. But the only thing I feel like that has ever worked is that you are confident with the way that you are and know that you make mistakes and are willing to always become a better person, and letting that be what it is and you connecting through that. But it's so much harder said than done.
They say like 75% of marriage, 50% of marriages end in divorce. And something like another of the ones that remain, more than half of those are unhappy. And I can't help but wonder, like, how much of this is because people try to put on a face or a mask when they go into meeting people, and they hold that mask on as long as they can, maybe years,
because that's
even.
what works, yeah.
And then they finally come out and start being your true selves. Because I think at some point you forget that you were wearing a mask.
Right.
And your real self comes out. And some people are like, oh, that happens like 2 months in the dating, maybe.
Right.
The real person comes out and you go, oh, hey, we don't even like each other.
Sure.
But my philosophy is like, you can't mask yourself. You want someone who loves you for who you are.
Of course.
Like, right off the bat.
Amen.
So if you are someone who makes dumb jokes just day to day, keep being that.
Yeah.
Because someone's going to like you.
I think so.
I also personally think that comes into play in the workplace as well. If you're in the right workplace. I mean, sometimes we get the job we get in a bad economy and we kind of have to just roll with it.
Sure.
But sometimes if you connect by being your true self, you can build a relationship with your coworkers that makes the workplace that much better.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was working at this tech company, I hid for so long that I did stand up. And when it finally came out, it was actually an asset. Because turns out my bosses were fans of stand-up. They really respected the craft. They said, we can see how you are really good at presenting things. We all just clicked, and it gave me a little bit of an advantage at that workplace.
Yeah.
I never expected it, but it just goes to show you authenticity can actually work in your favor, both in dating and in the workplace.
Yeah. I think that's the key. I think authenticity is always the key. It's also, it connects with failure, I think, which is what a lot of my career is kind of like hinged on, is this idea or the proposed concept of what failure is. Because I think we're all terrified of it. And we've had, not to get political, but we have presidents who have said, like, that's the absolute worst thing in the world is failure. I will actually not concede to the concept. I will just say that I didn't fail or whatever. And so whenever you do win, then you hold on to that as this idea that that's everything that's important. But failure is some of the best things that can happen to you in this life if you use it as a tool, because failure shows you the truth behind certain things. And as in clowning, failure is the best thing to happen on stage, because that is a point of vulnerability. It's a point of humanity. And it's the best way the audience can see, oh no, they failed. Now I'm going to give them an extra moment to pick themselves back up. I'm going to, we all understand failure. Not a single one of us has never failed in something in our life. So it's very easy to connect with. It's a human principle. And then you use that as a way to get better. You see that that's a way that you can move on. And on stage, if you fail, it's a way to connect with the audience and then take them on a journey and be like, well, that didn't work. So let's either double down on that until it works with you guys so that you're on the same page with me, or we're going to shift and now you're on my page because you're like, we're not on there, we're going to go with this. Or maybe that fails and then we're going to go with this. That's the journey of the audience going with you. And so it's a beautiful thing. Now, if you pretend like failure didn't happen, both on stage or in life, it's so obvious and everyone sees it. No one wants to hang out with somebody who just keeps pretending like they've never failed. It's the most unattractive quality in a human, to just be like, nope, I didn't do that. That was not failure. No one wants to see a stand-up comedian who bombs and then they go, that's supposed to work, you guys suck. The audience never is okay with a stand-up who says stuff like that.
No.
That you have to be like, but they will always be on your side if you go, well, that didn't work, I'll figure that one out.
There's comics who rely on that.
And that's maybe a little too much, but it's at least there. At least you're connecting with the audience.
What I love about everything you just said is that, having watched some of your AGT experience, It really is that. One of them, I forget which it was, you come out, you do your thing, and they're like, all right, get out of here. And then you run back on stage. I mean, that's part of the bit, but it's exactly what you said. It's failure and then doubling down and trying harder. It's almost like your act is a metaphor for life.
Hey, there you go. But it all is, right? It all is a metaphor. Everything is interconnected. We're talking synergy, baby.
It's Jungian. It taps into the Jungian subconscious, which, if you guys don't know, it's that we all share this collective subconscious. Yeah. And when we appreciate art, we're tapping into that.
Oh, yeah.
And great art reaches in there and brings out a truth. And then we're like, oh, that's my truth too.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you planned as a clown. Duh. Did we just take it and make it extra smart? Yeah. Yeah, we did.
You did.
That's what happens when you have a Virgo hosting a podcast.
Hey! Get a Virgo and a Sagittarius together. You got yourself some good content. I'm sorry.
What?
I don't know.
With
Stuff's here. We're learning. We're making mistakes.
Which is what it's about.
Yeah, it's all what it's about.
So with that, you guys, that's your golden nugget, which I love to find by the end of these podcasts, is something that's a takeaway. Yeah. The takeaway is be authentic, even if that involves failing, because sometimes that actually makes you connect with people more.
I freaking love that.
I love it. So where can we find you and your content?
The best place is on patreon.com/Sethward. That's where I use that as a hub for all things. That's where I update everything all the time. I'm also Instagram, and all the other places. YouTube is Sethward, Sethward. And then Instagram and the other ones are STHWRD, which is because I couldn't afford the vowels in my username. So it's just vowelless.
They charge extra for vowels.
Hey, it's hard world out there on social media.
Look, he's a clown, okay? He couldn't afford
It's
the
true.
vowels.
It don't make the big bucks. I'm sorry.
All right. And with that, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. I'm Kat Alvarado, and you can find me at Kat Alvarado Comedy on Instagram and TikTok. CatAlvaradoComedy@gmail.com. Send me a message if you want. And I hope you got something out of this. And until next time, goodbye.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for this was so fun.